Hello, and welcome to the MirrorMask Commentary, hosted by myself, Cruz Moore, of JamCamProductions.com. Now, in order to make sure that this commentary track is in sync with the movie, we're going to start at the beginning of the film at the black screen. And when I go 3, 2, 1, and on play, we're both going to hit play, and everything should be in sync. Now, in order to make sure that everything continues to be in sync, I'm going to be quoting certain dialogue throughout the film. Now, for any reason, if my dialogue is not in sync with their dialogue, feel free to rewind or fast forward this commentary track and everything should be in sync. But we're going to try to get it right the first time by going 3, 2, 1, and play. Samuel Goldwyn should be appearing right now. And I'm going to let you know when it fades out. Fading out right now. Okay, everything should be working. So here we are with MirrorMask from 2005, directed by Dave McKeon and written by Neil Gaiman, a combination that is absolutely fantastic. People who I didn't know who they were at the time I saw the film, but coming to know them and seeing what kind of work they do, it was a phenomenal combination of talent. Now, coming up on the first shot of the movie, when this first came up, when I saw this little bam, sock puppet. When immediately I saw the sock puppet behind this like weird European minimalist design in the background just talking to itself, immediately I thought, holy crap, I'm gonna like this movie. And then as it proceeds, we get the great line by the black sock of you cannot escape my cunning use of black magic markers, right there. It like immediately it made me think, okay, I love it. I immediately love it. Just having nonsensical dialogue and beautiful visuals like this, it made me think, oh my god, this is catching my eye. This is immediately making me like it. And that's what MirrorMask is to me. Not only do I think it's a great film that is underappreciated and one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, it's a movie that all its little elements, all its dialogue, all the little things about it, they just work in a way that click with me. And there are several films that are able to do that, whether they're good or bad, but there are some that just click in the right way and speak to your mind, and that's just how they work. So not only is this a great film, but it just clicks with me, and it's one of the reasons why I have so much love for it. One thing that I can say about this intro sequence is that if you pay attention, this entire thing is an imaginative blueprint for this circus that you're seeing right now. And then we cut back to the eccentricity of this just great interaction between these two socks. One thing that I also like about this intro is that it foreshadows pretty much, not everything in the film, but certain elements of the film. This dialogue that you're hearing right here, you will hear near the end of the film. As you'll also get introduced to all these little designs that Helena, the main character, has created, and is the basis for her imagination world that she enters, the dream world. Something that I felt was a little bit underplayed because after a couple times watching it, I was never really able to establish that the dream world was based off of everything that she drew, even though she says all of these things are things that I drew. So that connection is a bit underplayed, I feel, but it's also a little quite subtle. Screenplay by Neil Gaiman. Who I guess, is the reason why this dialogue is so fantastic. And now we cut into her trailer. And if you listen closely, you'll hear the soundtrack saying Helena, which then transitions into her mom calling her name. It's tiny little details like that, whether it's in the visuals or the soundtrack, that make me love this film, that everything is kind of in sync with each other and kind of living together in one cohesive element. Also, a little line of dialogue here that I feel no one really laughs at when I show them this film is she says, nobody looks like an idiot, and then we cut to this guy that just looks ridiculous in this costume. It's something I was able to pick up on, but every time I show this movie to someone, they don't seem to laugh at that line. Now, this dialogue that she's having with her mother, it's an element that I'll be talking about throughout the film. It's one of the flaws that I find in this movie, and it's the dialogue between her and her mother about how she is kind of getting sick of the circus thing. she's tired of, going through every performance and being part of it, and she says, I want to run away and join real life. And it's weird to hear her say that, because when we see the intro of the film where she's playing with her socks, where we see that she's a creative artist, and when she goes into the dream world where she's not denying it, she's kind of playing around and having fun with it, you start to wonder, where exactly did this argument come from in the first place? I mean, I can understand exhaustion with being in a circus for every single performance with your family, but at the same time, you have this imaginative girl with drawings like that, where I'm like, why exactly do you want to join real life when you're an artist like this? But it'll be something I'll be bringing back up throughout the film, and just kind of being confused as to why she does that. 3, 2, 1, boom. God, I love that intro. And it's a movie ticket as well. I like those little details so much. Oh yeah, also, if you pay attention to that sound effect when the title MirrorMask comes up, it's the same sound you hear when Helena first puts on the mirror mask near the end of the movie. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm kind of out of sync with that movie right now. It's not the commentary, it's just that so many things are going by so fast, I'm trying to keep up with it all. I think this is a nice little callback. The thing that you're seeing with the crystal ball that Pingo is doing right now, along with those crystal balls right there, I find that it's a nice little, even if it wasn't intentional, I think it's a nice little reference to David Bowie's glass orb playing in Labyrinth, also made by the Jim Henson Company. I also appreciate how, like, all the masks that you see in the circus and all the little designs, they're things that you also find in the dream world as well. And it's because, like with the Wizard of Oz, you see little elements. God, I love close-ups of mouths. I don't know why. I love close-ups of mouths, and I love close-ups of eyes in movies, and I have no idea why. I just appreciate them for some reason. What I was saying about the Wizard of Oz is that elements from Dorothy's life come into play into the land of Oz, the whole dream world that she's in. And it's the same thing with this movie as well, which is why one of the quotes that caught my eye when I first discovered this movie was, it's a Wizard of Oz for the 21st century. And I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. However, I wouldn't necessarily say for the 21st century in terms of appealing to everyone. I would say a Wizard of Oz that takes place in this strange European bohemian, like, circus, like, atmosphere and universe. And that's one of the reasons I love this movie so much is that what it does with the dream world. One other thing I guess I can say about it is that despite me being someone who hates movies that use an overabundance of CG, this movie is at least 70% CGI. So I always found it kind of contradictory that I can't stand when movies do that, and yet MirrorMask is one of my favorite movies of all time. But the reason why it gets a pass for me, the reason why I love a movie like MirrorMask but can't stand a movie like Avatar, is that though Avatar was visually creative, it was boring to me. The story didn't catch my interest. It didn't make me care, and the visuals were it just felt like one big kind of video game. Sure, it was creative and took a lot of time, but I mean, something on that grand a scale, doing those kinds of things in that movie, it didn't sync with me. It just didn't work. I didn't find it interesting or compelling whatsoever. But when you make a movie like this, which isn't trying to make a big sci-fi epic, it's just trying to tell this story of this girl leaving the real world and entering a dream world of her own making. When you make it so that everything in the movie is like, it looks like it came out of a European circus mixed with a European junk room mixed with a European thrift store or bric-a-brac shop or antique store, that's what makes it have a pass for me, is that you're not making something that could be seen through something else in regards to sci-fi or a video game or anything like that. You're not making something that feels derivative. You're making something that feels like it comes from something palpable, something that has depth. And then we cut to the real world, which is completely blue and gray. 10 days later. See, we have, look at this. All of these are her drawings. All of these are designs made by her. They're absolutely creative. And of course, all of it is designed by Dave McKean. And the art direction in this movie. And when you have a girl that, look at that. That's the entire dream world right there that it comes from. So how come this girl is angry that she like wants to, I love that piggy bank, that she wants to join the real world when her entire world is the circus right there and her drawings? I can understand a little bit of normalcy, but I mean, that kind of anger that she felt at the beginning, I kind of never really understood. God, I love the way this movie's shot so much. You have things like fisheye and these like wide shots, and the coloration in this film, it has an airbrushed kind of feel to it, but it's not overdone. But I don't know, everything visually about this film I just absolutely adore, whether it's the dream world or in the normal world. Even though everything in the normal world looks blue and kind of grayed out, it still looks calming. It still looks relaxing. It has this 5 a.m. like dawn blue color that I love. That if anyone has been outside at 5 a.m., you'll see that everything is just, the entire world is coated blue. Everything else is kind of muted, and that's what this film does with its outside shots. I also like this little reaction by her. It kind of subtly establishes this idea that, yeah, we have a female protagonist, and later on we have Valentine, who's the other male protagonist, but it's not like they're going to end up together, and it's not like they're romantically linked. They're just there, and she doesn't really have any interest in having the relationship with any guy in general. Even though she's like an older teenager, it's not like boys are on her mind. Which also plays into how when the evil side of her, the dark princess, goes into the real world, she's, making out with a guy, and it's completely the opposite of Helena. And of course, I'm missing out on a bunch of other stuff. Like how the nurse gives her the brush to comb her hair, as if like this is about maybe the third or fourth time this has happened. Maybe they're on good terms and she knows that, hey, maybe I should keep a brush by my side. But yeah, little details like that I just, they're so subtle, but they're so, I don't know, peculiar, and kind of make the film just that more interesting. I'd rather be juggling bananas. See, if that line of dialogue was in sync with hers, then everything's cool. If not, rewind, fast forward, I don't know. I also like this little scene right here where she says, "I left you fruit, where'd it go?" And then you see the woman just eating grapes. And when I first showed this to certain people, they were like, wait a minute, did she seriously just steal her fruit? What the hell? And it's like, no. No, the woman had that reaction because it's like, oh, I hope she doesn't assume that I stole her fruit. Hopefully you can't hear those dogs in the background. I certainly hope not. Maybe I should have recorded this at night. Who knows? Here's coming up right here. Here's another little detail that kind of just makes the movie that more peculiar, and it's something that the director talked about in his commentary. Is that the mom starts off saying a little fairy tale. There was a little girl who had a little curl in the middle of her forehead, and when she was good, she was very, very good. And he says, we did have more to this scene, we did have more to this fairy tale, but it just got cut, I guess. But I like how she starts it off, and it shows this kind of fairy tale connection with her mom, which also plays into the imaginative side of Helena, plus the dream world itself. how everything plays out as a fairy tale. Another thing that really made me love this movie is that when I first saw it back in 2007, this actually came out in 2005. I didn't get around to seeing it until 2007, Christmas of 2007, which was great for me because I love the winter. So seeing a movie that has this rich, warm, gold, red color tone to it when it enters the dream world, being able to watch a movie like this that is just kind of, I keep saying the word eccentric, I'm trying to find more words, but kind of quirky in a sense, or just livable. Seeing a movie like that I can enjoy over and over again because I fell in love with it when I first saw it, whilst also like bundling up in the winter and eating like Christmas cookies, it just made a perfect atmosphere and introduction to this movie. Plus, at the time, I was a big Anglophile and kind of still am, so I just ate up everything that was British media, and this was a great movie to have for that purpose. There's a line of dialogue here coming up that I still quote to this day and keep it in my head as a video producer and an artist trying to make something creative. Dreams only get you that far. After that, you need cash. And it's like, yeah, as time goes on and as you get older, it's like, yeah, I have all these creative ideas, but, bills, apartments, stuff like that. And it's like, shit. You have to like sacrifice things, and it's like, oh, but I have so much potential. Here's another line of dialogue that continues throughout my life as well. He sits down next to her and goes, that's an interesting drawing, what's it called? And she says, it's just a drawing, it's not called anything. And yeah, it's coming from her being irritated that her mother is in the hospital, but I like the idea that you can create something and it doesn't necessarily need to have a title. It can just be as it is, And I don't know, I always like that kind of line of dialogue. One more example of how great Neil Gaiman is when it comes to writing dialogue. Which makes me think I still need to finish his book, American Gods. Damn it. I have too many books to read, and Neil Gaiman's American Gods is just one more of them that I need to finish. Also, if for anyone who watches the show Doctor Who, he wrote The Doctor's Wife for season 6, and that turned out to be one of my favorite episodes of all time. And of course, it has this just amazing dialogue in it as well. Here's another line of dialogue coming up that I really like, where she's sad over the fact that her mother is sick and in the hospital, and her dad says, these things happen, it's just life, and she responds with, it's just stupid. And that's how I feel all the time, is because sometimes people are like, yeah, that's just how life goes, and then you have to just think, the only reaction you can really have, no matter what age you are, whether it be her age or in your 20s, 30s, whatever, you just say, it's just stupid. And it's like, yeah, life can just be stupid sometimes. There's really no reason for it sometimes. I like this little smile she has when he says, I'll offer you my coat. That's a treat. Another detail right here that I feel is kind of underplayed. This is actually a door, but it looks drawn on. What's actually drawn on is a window, which comes back later in the movie. How she kind of enters the real world through windows. But I didn't notice that it was actually a door, and that's how she gets to the roof. It was a little confusing when I first saw it. I'm going to move real quick because I've been sitting down this whole time. Hang on. And we're back. And once again, we're getting these little looks at all these little designs, which for some reason I didn't connect to the dream world in the first place. We got the fish that will end up flying. We've got the Sphinx right there. And now we're in the dream world, which I like to think that this represents the moment where she leaves the real world and the Dark Princess enters her world, like right when we get to the mirror and she starts laughing. That's basically the connection between the two and how they transition into each other. And switch. Now she's in the dream world. One thing I keep bringing up throughout this commentary is showing this movie to other people. Unfortunately, I've shown it to at least one, two, three, four or five people. Unfortunately, they never seemed to be into it. They never seemed to really enjoy it as much as I have, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know. One of them said that it just kind of like treads on and just goes on and doesn't really go anywhere, and the plot's kind of eh. Which I can kind of understand. This movie, like any movie when it comes to a normal character entering a strange imaginative world, which is the kind of thing that I always love to see with things like The Wizard of Oz, obviously, and Alice in Wonderland. It's mostly filled with this character just going through kind of set pieces. You know, you go from one weird thing to the next weird thing to the next weird thing to the next weird thing. And that can kind of tend to be boring, but if you make it right, the plot will work on its own and will work really well. And I think MirrorMask does that. I don't think that it really treads along. I don't think that it goes on for too long. I think it works really well. Now, one thing that's particularly interesting about this scene, not only, I mean, if you just look at it, everything is lighted so perfectly. And like I said before, if you can take CGI and use it for things like this, where you're changing the color and you're changing the look and you're adding things that accentuate the movie aesthetically, then you're doing a great job. And it's something that Mad Max Fury Road recently did, is that there is quite a bit of CG in the movie, but there's a lot of practical effects when it comes to the car stunts and the explosions. And they use CG mostly for the color and to accentuate the overall look and atmosphere of the movie, as well as to, you know, achieve anything that they would normally have been able to achieve. So if you can have CG in a film that isn't something like Avatar or Transformers, where it's just this overabundance of, you know, computer generated imagery, if you can make it so that it makes everything look visually strange and creative, like this movie, where, look at that, you have like like the explosions look like those fireworks that just burst and then they start falling like a curtain. It looks beautiful. And if you watch this movie in the dark, it kind of bleeds your eyes because you have everything that's so dark and then this big flash of light that just appears out of nowhere. Yeah, there is so much for me to talk about this movie. It's hard for me to keep up. But I'm just trying to find more synonyms to describe the visuals of this movie because they just look so beautiful. And I love how everything has like this, it looks like everything is being illuminated by a flashlight that's kind of fading in and out. Like all this lighting is kind of like, it looks like it's vibrating. It's kind of like breathing in the background. I really like the visuals of that. It just looks fantastic. And once again, this is just them pretty much walking around a blue screen. But hey, if you make it look as strange and worn and run down like this, then you've done a great job. And if you make CG creatures like that, where the wings are a rainbow and the skin is like leathery velvet, and it's a person's face actually matted onto the creature, then you're doing something creative with CG. It doesn't always have to be something based around destroying buildings and just ridiculous amounts of carnage and PG-13 destruction. And then you realize that it eats books. It's strange things like this that make me love the movie. It's the masks that they wear. It's the fact that the sphinxes have faces. It's the fact that they eat books. It's the fact that you can float on a book by saying that this book is a piece of crap. Badly constructed book. Float. It's great. I love it. Look at that. Boop. Now, here's the thing. Look, Helena completely goes with it. Poorly paced book that the soppy ending I didn't believe in for 1 minute. Float. Like, she just goes with it. This was a girl that was yelling to her mom about I want to join real life, but look, look what you're doing. But as I come to understand it, it's not. It's a bit of a flaw to the film. Um, I think as she enters the dream world and sees a purpose for herself in order to save it, she kind of realizes, hey, maybe I don't need to enter the real world. Maybe I can just have both. Maybe I can just appreciate the creativity of it all and see that there's more to life than living a normal life. Which she then starts to see what the Dark Princess wants to do. You see her, um, as she says in the movie, eating chips and snocking boys and smoking, things like that. She sees that, hey, everything that the Dark Princess is doing is what is normal life, I guess. But normal life isn't that great. Everything in this world is kind of great. So, yeah, I think we may have found her. Look at that. Look at that. Look at those fish. It's great. I think I'm starting to realize now that a lot of this commentary is just going to be me praising this movie. It's I'm not really sure like how many other details I can kind of go into it, but something like Valentine. Why? What's your name? Valentine. Yeah, there are so many of these quotes from this movie that I still say to this day because they're perfect. They're so creative and humorous, but without trying to make jokes. They're so simple. Complete disaster. Actually, here's another great line that I love coming up. I'll never ever forget him. Did you know him long? Who? And once again, it's one of those lines that I laugh at when watching the movie, but when my friends watch it, they're quiet, and it's like, did you seriously just miss that? Okay, look at these characters in the background. God, I love them so much. I'll talk about them in a second, but there is another line that I love so much. Does everyone around here... Oh, shit. Sorry, I'm out of sync. Now I'm in sync. How do you know if you're happy or sad without a mask? Or angry? Or ready for dessert? Like, how does dessert apply to that at all? It doesn't, but that's just how great Neil Gaiman's dialogue is. Now, once again, these characters, their head is a shoe. Another one is a fish stuck in a block of ice. Everything else is made out of broken junk and just all these little things that you would find in a European junk room or trash heap, And that's what this entire basis for this dream world is. And I think it's beautiful. It's brilliant. And she even says, this is bizarre. And it's like, yeah, it is bizarre, Helena. Why do you want to go to the normal world then? Plus, the costumes in this movie are just really great. The masks, especially, like, when you think of... Which is funny, I'm someone who hates masks. I don't know why. I mean, a Halloween mask, yeah, sure, whatever. But... like ballroom masks where they only cover half of your face and they have those strange designs. Kind of like if anyone has seen Labyrinth, the scene where Jennifer Connelly is just in that kind of dream world where everyone is in a ballroom and they're all wearing those strange masks. I love that scene. It really fascinated me as a kid, but if I see those in real life, if I see masks like that, it'll really just make me go, no, thank you. I don't know why. I really don't. They just, I don't know. They represent something perverse to me. I don't know why. But in regards to masks in these movies, they're so creatively done. They're not just ballroom masks, nor are they masks that cover your complete face. They're crafted so intricately and interestingly. Like Valentine's mask is like a block of wood attached to his face that is part of his hair and has beady little eye holes. But it's a part of their being, so it's like it doesn't matter if they have tiny eye holes or something like that. They're still able to see because it's who they are. Look at that visual. It's so gorgeous. That's another thing that I love about the lighting in this movie. Everything is shimmering. Everything just has this like layer of glimmer and light. This is one of the quintessential films that I think of when I think of me wanting to leave reality and entering a surreal dream world where everything is so different and strange. It's things like this. It's things that have this sense of purity and perfection, but also strangeness and just bizarre, God, what's the word? Nonsense, I guess. His Mask especially. Funny story about His Mask. We had an English assignment where we had to create a mask, and as someone like me who is creative in regards to video producing, I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't design anything physical. And it always breaks my heart when I have some kind of art project like that in school and I try to explain to the teacher, you do realize that I cry when I try to make something artistic, right? Because I am basically destroying a medium, and it's insulting to me, and it's insulting to the medium, and they're like, well, then you get an F if you don't do it. And I'm like, well, thank you for your understanding. But anyway, I figured, well, I can't necessarily design a physical mask, but this guy's mask was made out of pretty much foil and only goes down the center of his face. Which, now that I think of it, if you look at his mouth, which is painted red, and if you look at the foil on the sides, it has a bit of a womanly kind of design to it. So that's a bit strange. But I tried designing that mask for my English class, and it didn't really work out too well, because when I brought it in to show my friends, like, this is the art project that I did, and a friend of mine had the same art class but a different period, or the English class, sorry. She looked at it and said, how is this a mask? This doesn't go over your face. It's just foil, and it's like, it's barely there. And it really frustrated me, because it's like, look at that creature. What the hell is that? Anyway, once again, another little element of this movie that doesn't make any sense, but I love it for that very reason. I ended up destroying it because it was just made out of foil, so I could just crumple it up and tear it up and be like, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, and I didn't turn it in, and the teacher was like, okay, well, you're getting an F. But for some reason, my friend felt bad despite completely insulting the mask that I made and hurting my feelings. What ended up happening is that my English teacher went, I'm not going to give you an F because a friend of yours came in, said what happened in the morning, and said, that they kind of insulted you. So I'm going to give you an extra day to work on it. And I thought that was kind of touching that my friend actually saved my skin a bit. But in the end, I just ended up making the same exact mask out of foil. And I don't remember what grade I got on it, actually. But, oh well. And here's another little just intricate uniquity to the film. We have all these designs that are coming from physical objects that are kind of seen in this weird kind of European sense, and now we have these paper designs, which kind of sync in with Helena's own paper creations that she has in her room. You have this amazing combination of all these different kind of artistic elements, and it makes for one visually beautiful movie. I think I know it if I saw it. Crap, now that I think of that. Sorry, I'm quoting lines of dialogue that aren't happening with the movie. That doesn't mean this is out of sync, though. It just means I'm getting ahead of myself. What if it was the chicken? Okay, there. Now we should be in sync. Another thing that this movie does, that Wizard of Oz did as well, is that it has the characters that we saw previously play the same roles as people in the dream world. So in the same way that Wizard of Oz had her uncles, and I can't remember if all three of them were her uncles actually. Um, and of course the old woman on her bike. I really wish I could remember her name because she does a fantastic job. They all play the Tin Man and the Lion and the Wicked Witch. So you have her mother and her father playing this guy and the queens. And I probably should have looked it up on IMDb before, but I don't know if her grandmother plays the old woman in the mask shop later. I'll probably have to look that up later, actually. But as far as I know, you have the same actress for the mom playing the queen, and you have the father playing this guy. Valentine comes from Helena's pure imagination, and I think that's pretty much everyone. Actually, no, I forgot. When we first are introduced to Valentine and his performers that get eaten by the shadows, they're actually played by the character of Pingo that you saw at the beginning of the film that was talking by whistling. And you also get the guy playing the violin who gets eaten by the shadows. You see him very briefly in the hallway when Helena goes to talk to her dad. But yeah, those are another two people that come back into it, and that's why she says, what are you doing here? You know, because she knows who he is. Although we briefly see him in the hallway. And now we have a character that's completely made of books. And here's another character, like everything else in the film. I haven't used this word yet. It's a great example of abstract art. This, which is pretty much what Dave McKean makes. He makes this amazing abstract art, and for some reason these characters have plague doctor masks. Wow, I think I just noticed that you can actually see written cursive lettering right there. That's disgusting. Oh, I love this movie too much. Giant eyeball telescope, which syncs up with the queen's eyes that are crawling on spider legs. Another little detail I love about this movie, the way the books are flying. And Helena pretty much sums it up when she says, in a few seconds, Valentine had no idea that books had such... Crap, what did she say? Valentine had no idea books had such different personalities. There we go. And it's true. You know, it's little lines of dialogue that kind of make you think about normal objects in life. The complete history of everything. But what I was saying about Dave McKean, his art is absolutely fantastic. And as someone like me who doesn't necessarily appreciate or have a taste for abstract art, I appreciate his, because it looks like this, and you can actually kind of still make sense out of it. And that's one of the ways I've been able to describe this movie, is that it's abstract art come to life. But also not just sticking with that. Now we cut to this pencil drawn animation to tell the backstory of this world, who of course is actually Helena. Which once again perpetuates the idea that Helena created this entire world that she's inside. So why was she asking to be part of the real world? I don't know. Which, you know, like I said, equivalates to the Dark Princess and why she goes into the real world. So technically it does make sense, but I feel like it was a bit underplayed. I would have appreciated it if when Helena came into this dream world, she denied it. She just said, this is dumb, I don't have time for nonsense, I don't care. But she goes with it. I mean, she does say, when she's talking to, like, the head dude, I don't know his name, but the guy being played by her father, she says, this is all just a stupid dream. So that's one moment where she says, this is just fake, this isn't happening. And right now, she is aware that it's a dream because she saw herself sleeping. But at the same time, she's still going with everything. She's not denying this nonsense that she kind of wants to get away from. The book has a little nice fluttering to it. The concept of books being depressed and molting everywhere. I love it. like I said before, and like I'm sure I'll say many times over and over again, it's a movie with absolute nonsense and strangeness, and I love it. And oddly enough, I think I'll take the time right now to talk about nonsense in film. I love movies like this. I love Alice in Wonderland. I love Wizard of Oz. What else is like this? Matrix is another good example. Someone leaving the real world and entering kind of a strange world, but not in the same way as this is. I guess Jan Svankmajer's Alice from the 1980s, which was live action combined with stop motion, and was an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. A really strange stop motion adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, which is also phenomenal. I'm not sure if it's actually still on Netflix. You might want to check that out. If you type up Alice, you might be able to find it. It's from the 1980s German stop motion film. But it's movies like that I absolutely love, that are just made of complete nonsense. However, one film that was essentially complete nonsense that I didn't enjoy was Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And that's something that a lot of people hate me for. And you would think that I would like that movie because it's just this. Of course, it's an adaptation of the comic series, which I read a little bit of, and I actually liked more than the movie, which I felt, yeah, because this works in a comic book form, because you can kind of get away with that. But when you go and put it in a movie where everything is just happening just because, which is the same thing with this movie, it's happening just because, it's because she's entering a dream world where you believe, it's like the doorknob says in Alice in Wonderland, nothing is impossible. You go in with an open mind. But with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I know it's adapting it because that's how the comic is, but to me, in a film form, it feels like it's there just to be there. It's like you have all these 8-bit crazy things going on just because you can. And I guess you could equivalent it to the mindset of those teenagers, and that's how they kind of see life. They adapt everything in pop culture and everything they enjoy in life to the real world, and this is how their world basically is. But overall, I felt like it was just too on the nose, and it was too overblown and ridiculous. But I'll go into that later after this scene because I love it too much. Man. It's one of my favorite scenes from the movie, just of how, once again, Neil Gaiman's writing is just great. Having this girl have an argument with a sphinx that has a human face and tells this ridiculous riddle to him. Now we start to see the black shadows finally entering the dream world and infecting everything. I love how the Sphinx, which is supposed to represent the Egyptian Sphinx of telling the riddle of what walks on 2 legs in the morning. Wait, no, 4 legs in the morning, 3 legs. No, fuck. 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening. And yet, when people tell him a riddle, he's just completely baffled by it, and he's like, crap. And then you have these amazingly designed giants as well. I like how essentially these two creatures, which one of them is male, one of them is female, it kind of does represent the mother and father in a way, and how at the end of the scene where they're being split apart, it kind of represents the fact that she is in the hospital and he isn't. So her life is kind of in danger, which is something that I like the fact that they are subtle and they underplay why she's in the hospital. We know as the audience that it's something wrong with her head. And they're going to be conducting surgery, on her brain. So it could be a tumor, it could be cancer, it could be an aneurysm. I have no idea. They never fully go into it. But I like how we know that it's something to worry about, but it's not necessarily the focus of the film to understand what it is. Just that we know that she is in danger and that it is something to do with her brain, and it is pretty much close to life and death. And we have a box with a nice little glimmer. I love the music in the scene too. Okay, one thing I should talk about the soundtrack of this film as well. I can't remember who wrote the review for the soundtrack. I think I read it at I can't remember anything right now. I read a review about the film's soundtrack and how they said, as creative as it is probably one of the most strangest and cohesive yet simultaneously disjointed soundtrack you could possibly ever hear. Is the MirrorMask. I get chills every time I hear that. And it's because this film goes from strange wailing sounds in this scene with this repetitive clicking to it, like a broken machine or a clock. I like the fact that they're speaking with no mouths too. You go from that, and then you go to this kind of when you get to the old woman who owns the mask shop, you get this kind of Roomba strange just I don't know what the instruments are. I do know that we in this film we do hear clarinets, we do hear accordion, we do hear violins, we hear mandolins. But like I said, it's just this mishmash of strange instruments that do have this European undertone, but are just so strange when you hear them all together and back to back. And shing! It's tiny things like that. It's adding tiny little elements to your visuals that make me love this movie so much. It's the sound effects that they add when you hear something shiny, and it's the visuals that they add when you see something shiny. It makes it just that little more, peculiar and interesting. We'll know that 10,000 bloody years have passed. Also, this interaction between her and the Sphinx is just fantastic. The way that she just kind of made up the riddle and just completely half-assed it. The herring isn't green. Herring doesn't hang on the wall. I love how pissed off he is. And then right here he's just no. God, I love those eyeballs. They're so great. But yeah, the review just said that as fantastic as the score is, it's probably one of the strangest you'll ever hear because it goes from one instrument to the next, and it's just all over the place. But it works so well, and I love it. I love it so much. When she's running for the bus in the beginning, and the track itself is actually called "Running for the Bus" on the soundtrack, you'll hear this nice little Mexican guitar, I guess you could call it. I'm not a big expert on instruments, but you'll hear this guitar and this nice little plucking of strings of a bass, and as well as I think it's a clarinet playing in the background as well. It's like a really nice jazz kind of compilation when you're listening to it. And then you'll transition to like overblown accordion in some takes, or the music, the strange like eclectic, what's the word? Tribal noises that you'll wink. The tribal noises you'll hear when she encounters the monkey birds and when they all start flying everywhere. You get like this tribal rhythm going. So it's just an overall eclectic, phenomenal soundtrack. This track in particular is certainly interesting. That's coming up right here when we enter the room. And if you pay attention to the record right here, you'll see MirrorMask right there. A little logo on the record. Once again, makes absolutely no sense, is self-referential, but makes the film that more fun and enjoyable. Okay, even the cakes that she brings out right now are just so strange. They're so weirdly designed. If you like, it's a little hard to see them, but if you look closely, they're like green and pink, and look at that, they're shaped like domes, like spirals. And oh god, I love how she says, "We wash our hands before we eat. Hygiene, hygiene." She goes into the bathroom. Look at how hygienic this bathroom is. Oh man, everything visually about this film is just so stunning. It really is just an abstract painting. It's in the toilet. Just chilling out. Just chilling. Even if it's not designed, just the way that all these walls look fantastic. They're just worn and just kind of brushed with just black and gray. And yeah, in accordance with the drawings. I love this shot too. For some reason, this fisheye of her looking straight at the camera is awesome. I don't know why. Like, they use that shot in the trailer, and it just smiles at her. Oh god. Yeah, seeing that shot, it's like there are certain shots, once again, that just sync with me so well. I'm like, ooh, this movie looks interesting. Also, once again, dialogue that makes no sense, and yet is so perfect. Mr. Bagwell, how can a mask know what you need? And he said, Cynthia, remember, I don't know what I'm talking about. And the woman's like, yeah, absolutely. I totally get it. Yeah. And then Valentine just like pretty much is aware of how strange this is. Because she's barking mad. Don't let them see you're afraid. Which is a really great line. I don't know if it has any other relation to anything in the film. I mean, it's talking about the sphinxes and how they're going to eat them. But I wonder if that applies to any other thing in the film. Whether it be society or... who knows? I don't know. I think it's just a really great line in general. Really quotable. Also, if you listen really closely to the soundtrack, once again, it's playing with the movie. So if you listen closely, you'll start hearing the record go, don't let them see you're afraid, and then it keeps repeating over and over again. That's so great. I love when movies just do that. They have like all these little Easter eggs and sight gags that just make it that more interesting. For anyone who watches Edgar Wright's movies, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, same thing. There are so many tiny little things inside them that really add to just how much time and care are put into those films. Maybe I'll do commentaries for those too. I have no clue. Edgar Wright is my favorite director, so the chances of me doing a commentary for one of his movies is possible, maybe. I could also do a look closer episode on him, but to be honest, there are certain things that you love in life, certain things that you're a fan of, that it's hard to write in an essay format or a video format. It's really hard to cover everything about why their work is so great. So sometimes a commentary like this can kind of explain it. Also, I like the fact that you have sphinxes like this, which are just kind of carnivorous cats, and then you have the one sphinx that tells riddles. And I think this is a line that doesn't get heard as well either. It doesn't really get recognized that well when you hear it. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to hear when I first heard it. It's hilarious because the joke is that you put him in like a loophole. It's like, okay, you start, knock knock, who's there? And it's like, okay, well, where do you go? Where do you go from there? Because you don't know what to say next. But one of the Sphinx says, keep walking. But he says it in kind of like a hushed kind of mumble. So instead of keep walking, he says keep walking. And it's a little bit hard to hear. It doesn't flow as well as it should have, I feel. And once again, you can eat the book, but the pages of this book are as chewy as toffee. Makes absolutely no sense, but is awesome. And here's another incredible visual coming up. Vomiting black. That's so beautiful. Oh my god. And the background looks like there's water like behind a sheet or something. It looks so cool. Oh, it's great. Love it. I love the fact that the actress who plays this really calm, kind of bedridden mother who's very sweet is the same woman who's playing that woman, you know? And I love the fact that like she goes from like a hospital gown to huge hair. Give David Lynch a run for his money. And these just incredible costume design too. Like there's like there's like a crab, like no, not a crab, like a lobster arm like attached to her shoulder or something. It looks really strange. I guess going back to what I was talking about, Scott Pilgrim, for anyone who's seen it, there's a part in the movie where Scott is having a battle with this kind of I can't remember anything. Sorry, he's having a battle with this dude. I don't remember his name, the guy who played him, but he is a vegan, or was it vegetarian? No, it was vegan. Sorry, he's a vegan, and I think Scott defeats him by making him drink milk or something. I don't remember. But anyway, he does something that a vegan shouldn't do. And then all of a sudden, these people break in, this huge explosion through the wall, and go, "Stop, vegan police!" And that made me laugh my ass off. I didn't like anything else about the movie, but I did like that. And it's because it's like, who has ever heard of a vegan police? It's complete nonsense. But everything else in the movie, I didn't really like. Even though the rest of the movie is nonsense, I didn't seem to enjoy it. It just didn't click with me, and it just felt like an overabundance of like attention deficit disorder, like Nintendo. Like I felt like it came from that kind of mindset. It felt like some kind of daydream that some ADD like Nintendo fan would probably have. It just felt like way too much randomness for the sake of being random to me, personally. Or the fact when, like, Scott doesn't acknowledge any of the weird things that are going on really in the movie. But when I think it's his sister that works in the record store. When she starts cursing and her words are getting bleeped, he says, how are you doing that? And it's like, wait a minute, you acknowledge the fact that she's being censored, but you don't acknowledge anything else? Which I guess, yeah, it can be comedic, but overall it just irritated me. Also, it irritated me that this whole plot is, yeah, you can date me, but you have to feed all my exes first, and it's like, why? It makes sense in a comic book form because comic books can be that over the top and nonsensical. But you have it in a movie world, and it's like, you're not making me care. Which, once again, I'll admit, is a bit of a contradiction because it's like, none of the stuff in this movie really makes sense sometimes, and yet I absolutely love it. But I guess when you take it from a Scott Pilgrim point of view, and you have it from this kind of Nintendo craziness, 8-bit kind of world, then it doesn't click with me that much. Strange European Dave McKean artwork and Neil Gaiman writing appeals to me, but I guess big flashy 8-bit craziness doesn't appeal to me. Yeah, and now we get the soundtrack full of like these like taiko drums or something. I'm not even sure if that's a real thing, but anyway. Yeah, you have this just like strangeness of the soundtrack, and yet it's on the same soundtrack as a bunch of other different compositions, and it works great. That's another weird thing about this movie. Like, 2 of those black things fall on top of each other, and they're going to turn into an eyeball, and then another one falls on it, and it starts creating 2 eyeballs, I guess? I don't know. They, like, get stuck together. It doesn't really add anything to the movie, but it's just one more thing that's just really strange. That this, like, eyeball spider, like, you know, gets melded into another one. Also, one thing that I like about these monkey birds, which is what they're called, what makes them what they are, they have like an ape-like body. It's kind of a bird-shaped head with a beak that falls off for some reason. And they fly not because they have wings, but because they have like a flying squirrel flap underneath their arms. So you could have easily just made like monkey, like ape designs with wings, but instead they decide to make them with like these flaps underneath their arms. I think that makes them that much more interesting. And I love this. Once again, I love this design of having all these little doodles and drawings be in just floating. Just being in kind of just floating in space. Just around. Like everything else in this world does have cohesion. It's you have buildings and roads and bridges and all this and towers, incredible towers. And yet you still have all these little like maybe half forgotten drawings just hanging around. And here we have her appearing into the real world and saying that, you know, she's doing things that she absolutely despises. You're horrible. There's nothing there. But yeah, I guess it plays into this idea that like, hey, a normal life pretty much consists of yelling at your parents and making out with guys. Or you can have an awesome artistic world that, hey, you're actually living in. Oh, that's another great line. I forgot that was in this movie. We often confuse... Shit, I forgot. Oh, no. I can't rewind either. We often confuse what we wish for with what is, or what we want with what is. Now, there's a glass mask. Not necessarily mirror, though. Yeah, I'm sure anyone who's watching this movie, you already heard the dialogue of what he said and know what he said. But yeah, That's a line that always stuck with me. And I saw this when I was 14 in 2007. So hearing a line like that at that age is like, yeah, it's kind of coming into play right now and will continue on throughout life. We often confuse what we wish for what is, I think. And I love the fact that she's still saying that this is all a dream. I love the fact that even though this person who should be denying all this stuff because she wants a real life anyway, this person, even though she acknowledges that this is all a dream, she still thinks that it's important. She still thinks that she's going to do something, that she can save this dream world from being destroyed by the shadows. Even though she just keeps saying, this is all just a dream. And then you have this line, which makes you think, wait a minute, is this her dream? I love that line too, because it does kind of make you wonder, like, when you have surgery on your brain, what do you dream about? Is it stuff like this? Are these two people having dreams together? What exactly is dreaming like when you're getting brain surgery? And I like how she says, did I dream you a boyfriend? And he's like, no, don't mention it. Playing with the beginning of the movie where she sees that couple making out, and it's like, I'm not really into that. I like how she's at least 16, 17. 17 or 18, I'm assuming, because it's like, I'm guessing you're out of school if you're constantly touring in the circus with your parents. Or maybe she's homeschooled, I have no idea. But anyway, I like the idea that she's clearly a matured girl, but she's really not particularly interested in any kind of romantic connection. And I like how she kind of gains access to this dream power when she realizes, yeah, wait a minute, I am in a dream. Why am I not creating things? Why am I not being Ariadne right now and creating everything? Oh yeah, one other visual I forgot to talk about. I love the image of Valentine skipping stones across this pool of, I think he said, forgotten memories and wishes, I think. Yeah, I love the image of him just kind of skipping stones across it. This pool of things that once were, or things that people wish for. And this design is awesome. God, I love this so much. It's seeing all these unique designs, and it's like, what other movie are you gonna see a support beam, I suppose you could call it, of this dome covered in key locks? Yeah, and things like this too I just love in films, when you can play with reality and everything is so surreal and it's just so wrong and it's earsats and it doesn't make sense. And right now you have your entire world being controlled by this girl who's picking up a drawing and placing it somewhere else. Like a dark, unnoticeable, slippy thing. Oh, these visuals are so beautiful. And I just will never stop talking about them. I do my best. Excuse me, gonna fix my seating situation. And then look at that. We go from this pure white to this orange, amber, like just burgundy. just this great colorization. I love it. Now, it's at this point in the movie that some of my friends, whether it be online or people that I've shown it to, they say this is where the film seems to just drag on and not go anywhere. And I disagree. We are clearly going somewhere. We are going from her connection with her mom. We're seeing that this girl who, hey, despite this being a dream, she's actually in the real world, and now she's destroying these drawings. She's destroying this world. And the connection with her mom is, once again, like, separated because she's having surgery, and the connection with her dad is also separated too because she's impersonating her. We also see in a little bit that Valentine betrays her. We see that we finally get to the point where we might find the mirror mask with this key. We see that the protagonist is now in danger because even though we were progressing quite briskly along of the story, now we're in a part where it's like we're captured. We're kind of screwed. We're kind of losing hope now. So, no, I disagree that it goes on for too long or that it doesn't have a brisk pace. That the pacing is off. I think it goes along quite well. And if you're someone like me who's enjoying this film on not only a story level but a complete visual level, everything is working quite well. Everything is working as it should be for this movie. You know, nothing is really there just to be there. It's really fleshing out this entire beautiful dream world. One that you've never really seen before in a movie. And if you have, feel free to contact me and let me know if there are other films like this. I also love how this entire environment is like, the only thing here is this little bridge that they're on, and then the throne, and everything else is kind of just an empty void, just empty space. And I like how she says these clothes will have to go. We'll get the servants to burn them. Like, yeah, they're that bad, we'll just, throw them in a fire and get you a new one. And I love how, even though it might seem out of character for him a bit, now that I think of it, I do like the fact that, even from the beginning, Valentine was obsessed with fame. He was obsessed with riches and kind of, being something bigger. And even though, yeah, he did establish a friendship with Helena, he wasn't necessarily, like, tied to her. He's gone through these events with her, but he isn't necessarily her best friend. And it's like, I did not hog that cake. It shows that, like, yeah, now that I think of it, they weren't necessarily close. Even though she did say to him, like, thank you for sticking around with me, even though we haven't gotten along that well. I also like how, for some reason, I don't know if she gave it to him or if he just found it, but it's like, to represent me finally becoming rich, here's this hat. Also, these jewels look absolutely beautiful too. They look so succulent. Am I the only one that looks at jewels like that? Or rubies or I don't know, just any kind of gemstone in general and just think, God, I want to eat those. I always thought that. Which, as a kid, probably wasn't the greatest thing to think when you're putting gems in your mouth. Reminds me of that Kids Next Door episode when number 5 tries to get this blue rock and blue gemstone, and it turns out to actually be candy for number 1, and then he's like, ugh, I hate blue raspberry, and she's like, what the hell? I just risked my life to get you this. No idea if anyone has seen that episode. But yeah, gemstones are beautiful and delicious. This is also another, like, one of my top favorite scenes from this movie. Look at that. It's this huge, like, clock room. And it's beautiful. And there's so many of them. But it's also a dressing room, I suppose, which is interesting. I think in the commentary of this, they say this is pretty much their dressing room. It's a giant clock room with these mechanical fashion designers, I guess you could call them. And they all come out of these pods, these glass metallic reflective pods, and it looks so beautiful. And they all have clocks on their eyes too. Do birds suddenly appear? I have no idea why they used the song. I think they explain why they did in the commentary, but last time I heard that was a long time ago. But this scene is just so visually great, the way it's going so slow. And even though it's supposed to be a moment where our main character is in danger, where she's essentially being mind controlled and transformed into the queen's daughter who ran away, it still looks so great. It's all dreamlike, and it's like it's just putting her to sleep, and it's really tender and sweet. And I think the director says that his wife's lips are actually the ones that are on the fashion designer robot things. I think that's what he said. I think those are actually her lips. I don't know if she's the one singing though. And I like how we don't need any magical transformation scenes. We just have edits like that. Her lips just become painted. Her nails just become painted. Everything just kind of cuts into itself. I love the look of these teeth too. They look sinister, but they look so great. Right there. That is why all the boys in town... Okay, I'm not going to start singing on this commentary. Also, this little thing right here where you see the string going through, that's actually done in reverse, which gives it that little creepy look. They just take it out and then they just put it back in reverse. And then transformation. Close to you. It's just a beautiful scene. And it's something that I've never seen in like anything else. Also keep in mind, there are a couple of moments in this commentary where I'm actually having to stop, even though when recording a commentary like this, you shouldn't, to make everything sync together. But being that I don't live alone, and I also have neighbors, yeah, I'm having to kind of stop at certain points and make sure that everything is quiet so that nothing else gets picked up. So if you happen to hear any background voices, that's the reason why. Hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. And hopefully everything is still in sync. But like I said, that's why I'm saying certain dialogue and trying to do it in sync with them instead of before. Also, I love it. Look, poster, flower, and then poof. God, that's great. I love it. So hopefully if everything is in sync, that poof will be in accordance with that poof of the flower. And I love this. I love how it's just so simple. She's like playing this warped harp, and then she's playing with dolls. And it's like, to think that this is what they would do just on a normal day is like so interesting. Like, yeah, this is our life, just doing whatever. And here we start seeing, another kind of change in character with Valentine. It's like, yeah, he got pretty much everything he wanted, but now he's just kind of wandering aimlessly. And now he's starting to think, maybe there's something else to this. Maybe what we were looking for actually had meaning in the first place, so maybe I'm going to find this thing. I also love that image, just this wilting flower of like, yeah, all hope is kind of lost. Hang on a second, gonna fix my seating situation again. Presenting the MirrorMask. Hopefully that was in sync. I love how you can see her face in the actual letter. It's, once again, tiny little details like this that I just absolutely love. They could have easily just had it be her letter. They could have just easily had it be her writing, but no, they added her face. I love that line too. You can't run away from home without destroying somebody's world, which is true. Of course, she says it in this kind of like happy little tone, but it's like when you really think about it, it's a little sad. And it's both used in the sense of it's going to break your parents' heart or any other family member that you live with who cares about you, but it's also going to destroy this world because not everything is in balance as it should be. Because we have one girl who wanted a normal life who's now entered a dream world, and then we have a girl in a dream world who wanted a normal life and entered the real world. And it turns out that the one in the real world lived a life of fantasy, and the one in the fantasy world lived a life of normalcy. Also, if you pay attention right here, when the queen shoves her face in her face, her eyes go back to normal. Normal? And back to black. Can I have some more ice cream now, please? I don't know if that was a continuity error on their part, or if it was intentional to show that Helena is still in that body. She's still there, and maybe her eyes go back to normal for a quick moment. Or maybe they just forgot to do it. I have no idea. But I always thought that was kind of interesting to see that. Now, here is one flaw I will admit with the movie. Yeah, it's good to see Valentine come back and be like, yeah, I kind of screwed up. You know, I'm not exactly an evil guy. I just wanted, something valuable. And now that I realize that, I realize the friendship with you is actually a little bit more valuable than jewels. But the flaw that I'm talking about in this scene is that we're worried that our protagonist is now under the control of whatever dark magic that, made her transform. And we can see that she's still in there. We can see that she's kind of arguing with the queen. And just like Valentine says, I know that you're still in there somewhere. But then they start juggling, and then she goes back to normal. And I feel like in this movie sense, it does make sense to have her go back because Helena's a strong character. We've seen that she's still inside that body. And we see that juggling does kind of bring her happiness, and it's something that they were able to bond together on at the beginning of the movie. So it does make sense for her to just snap back to normal, but in terms of a plot point, in terms of script writing, it's not exactly the most creative way to bring us back to, hoping that everything will be normal and hoping that our protagonist will come back to her senses. I like how this ball flashes like that on the ground. See, now she's back to normal, which, is good. I'm glad she's back, but at the same time, that danger that we felt only lasted like 2-3 minutes, and it doesn't really work too well. Also, I love how her ceiling is like covered in what looks like knives made of glass. It's beautiful, but at the same time, it's like, that's dangerous. Somebody who hates me. Why does she call him Crawler there? I don't know why. It's like this some kind of like insult as a like, oh, you're just brown nosing me, you're just kissing up to me. I guess that's what she means. I don't know. Every time I look at these visuals, the colors and everything about their designs and everything, it's like, man, what is Dave McKean doing? Why is he not making more movies? He recently made one last year, and it was independent, so it's been in film festivals in certain places, so it's not exactly easy to find. I think you can order the DVD of it actually on his website. But that's one thing about this film. It's a film that I absolutely love, and normally when I find films that just make a huge impact on me, I look out other work. I look out what the director has done. I look at what the actress has done. I try to see the rest of their work. But with this movie, I didn't do that, and I still haven't done it. And I think it's because what else, the other stuff that they're doing is not exactly as similar as this movie. I'm pretty sure this is the only film that Dave McKean has directed besides a film adaptation of a play. And then there's the film Luna that he made last year. But hey, he certainly had guns blazing when he made this. Oh, I love this line too. You get them before they get you. Eat your greens. Please stop doing that. Don't embarrass me in front of the neighbors. She wasn't actually my mom either. She bought me from a man. I love that line so much. Why? Because it doesn't go anywhere. It gives us a little bit of backstory to Valentine, which is interesting to hear some form of rejection and abuse from a mother in this fantastical, magical world. It's like, why exactly did that happen? Oops, excuse me. Everything seems to be so great in this world, and yet Valentine... Oh, wait. If we just put little wheels on the bottom of our shoes, we could just roll around. That is probably one of my favorite movie quotes of all time. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Absolutely. If we put just little wheels on the bottom of our shoes, we could just roll around. Oh, that effect is great, and that idea is great. Like, where would you hide a mirror mask? In a mirror. Oh, and that was actually... Oh, look, you can see her on the mirror, that imprint. That's so awesome. Sorry, everything is just going so fast. But anyway, yeah, she was actually dipping her face into water when they were filming that. That is awesome. And Valentine says, okay, this is a little bit of a tangent. It kind of goes off into a different scene, so I can see why. It's like, wait a minute, we're trying to... Food. We're trying to go with this plot, and now we're here. Like, what does this add to the story? It adds a little tiny thing to the story, and that's what makes this movie great, is these tiny little details, but I can see why some people might think, where is this going? And then this woman. Look at these masks. How do they see out of them? I love it. It makes no sense. I love how, of all the people that eat this future fruit, where they see into the future, is Valentine. It's like, she says it takes, how long does it take? It takes one fruit, it's 300 years to grow, and Valentine eats it. Because that's where you go when you eat it, my love. And then you see this vision, which, yeah, does come back later at the end of the film. But, you know, it's just one more strange thing. And it does add this scene, too. It makes you think, wait a minute, this is a look into the future. Maybe Valentine's going to do this. Enters the real world, and this is what he actually looks like. This is awesome. I love this so much. Once again, a look into, hey, this is the real world. Do you really want to be in the real world? Do you really want a normal life? Because look at it. It sucks. And of course, this is one of my favorite lines in the movie, too. Oh, God. It adds, like, almost nothing to the movie, but, it's just so perfect. Oh, Jesus. But anyway, about his mother, going all the way back to that, it's like, she bought me from a man. And then she's, like, yells at him to, like, leave. It's like, why did that happen to Valentine? You know, but I like the fact that we get a little taste of his backstory, but we don't get a full fleshed out thing, you know. Although I would love to know more about him. It's great to see that, I love how her voice changes. It's great to see a tiny little detail of his life. The princess. This is great line delivery right here. Oh, it's so great. And then... Oh, that's great. If there's one thing my friends are able to recognize during the movie, is that when that scene happened, they were like, "Oh shit, she's pissed." Now, coming up right here is just one of the coolest, strangest visuals of this entire movie, and it's like if you haven't seen this movie, then you have not enjoyed one aspect of imagination to its fullest. You really need to see this movie for things like this. And I love how yeah, it's her face, but it's not fully her face. Like her nose is still part of this weird, just I don't know what to call it. But you know that's not true. I think someone might be asking right now, if she could do this before, why doesn't she do didn't why didn't she do it already? Oh wait, hang on. I love how she says, "You mean let my daughter choose her own food, her own clothes, make her own decisions, love her but not try to possess her." I love that so much because it shows that yeah, this queen isn't exactly. Oh yeah, there's the line. At the beginning of the movie, she says, "You're a really brave man. You're gonna be a very dead man in a minute," and then it cuts back to this part where you're like, "Hey, they say it again." But anyway, the fact that yeah, this character is evil, but she's not super evil. This kind of cements that idea. And at first you think, wait a minute, she's logical. She has common sense. She understands exactly what Helena is saying. But she doesn't care. It's like, yeah, this is what you should do when your kids are growing up. Let them do their own thing, but still love them and don't keep them too far away from you. And oh, that's the thing that I just realized. Valentine finally says sorry, and his tower comes back to him. That kind of plays into how Helena wants to say sorry to her mom, but she wants to say it in a way where she'll actually believe her. She just doesn't want to say sorry for yelling at you. She actually wants to legitimately let her know that she feels sorry for what she did. Anyways, yeah, the idea of her just saying, yeah, no way. That's absolutely out of the question. It's like, wow, okay, well, this mother is completely out of reason. I love how you can see the world, like, crumbling here. You see it, like, start to twist and turn. Like, right here. That's awesome. I love this part, too. Because you get this moment of, like, I think the movie just ended. And then everything goes quiet. And that always gives me chills. Even though I've seen this movie so many times, it gives me chills like, wait a minute, what? What? We lost? What? Wait, what? And on the commentary, they said, we kind of had the idea that to just end the movie there, to just make people go, wait, what the heck just happened? Just have the credits start rolling right when that happens. But they were like, no, we gotta continue it. Once again, this beautiful image of blue. Also, if anyone has seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, there are a lot of moments in that movie where they have the same shade of blue for the outside scenes, which is, once again, another film that I absolutely love on a visual and imaginative level. And is also another movie that's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And here is where the payoff comes from that quick little shot we had at the beginning of the door and the mirror on it. And it's like, wait, how is that there? And it's like, oh, because she drew a mirror on the door. No. Real life, you couldn't handle real life. Which connects to, oh, this is awesome. Boosh! That's so cool. That's so awesome. She explodes into watercolor and then gets sucked back into the mirror. But I love how that line connects to what her mother said at the beginning of the movie. Like, real life, Helena, you couldn't handle real life. And what I like about that line is that, to be honest, Helena, it wasn't so much that she couldn't handle real life as that she couldn't really handle the life in the dream world. And she saw that it was, not exactly as perfect. I like how she comes to this realization of, you know what? You can't handle real life because I just encountered imagination life, and it's not that great either. It's full of drama and, things that you have to fight for. Now, one thing about this scene, just like Wizard of Oz, it's this idea that everything that we just went through was a dream. However, one thing I like is the fact that she constantly acknowledges that it's a dream, We're not going, oh, I wonder if this is real or not, and then, nope, it was all a dream. No, we're kind of self-aware that it is a dream, and that what just happened doesn't mean that it was all a dream. It means that everything is finally in balance, and Helena is finally in the real world. So you can take it either way. However, the ending of the movie kind of makes it a little obscure too. Also, I like how in the scene you barely hear him. You don't hear his phone call that much. You just hear, "Thank you for telling me. I'll make the arrangements." And you're like, "Did she just die? Like, what are you arranging? Like, oh my god!" And then he turns around, right here, and he looks sad, and then nope, everything's fine. Although on the commentary they said, we were wondering, should we kill off the mom? Thankfully they didn't. But either way, what I love about this film, once again, is that the idea of being irritated at a movie for making everything a dream, yeah, does make sense. You can be irritated. And this shot especially, look, they're together again. That's implying that the Dark Princess and the Dark Queen are back together and they're happy. I'm not entirely sure how, seeing as the Dark Queen wanted to be in the real world, and the mother did not agree with Helena. I don't know how they're happy. But that little drawing implies that they were. So that's one thing I guess I can ask about the movie that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, is that, are they happy or are they not? And this scene in particular makes you question once again, did any of this actually happen? Because here we see Valentine. And we see that she's all better, the relationship's great, she's doing stuff at the circus, and I love how the music cuts out. Catch. And then Valentine. Also one of the best endings I've ever seen in a movie, ever. It's just, it's perfect. And then they both acknowledge it, like, yeah, we just went through this same adventure, right? Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. Like, wait a minute, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. Also, these credits are awesome. You get the title again, and then as you go down the cast list, you get tiny little pictures of them moving about who they played. And everything in the credits is like yellow lettering and designs in the background. It looks so beautiful. Oh yeah, and then you get that little design of the Queen right there. I like how you get concept art as well, and I also like how that the artistic quality of this movie still continues even in the credits. And this ending track is good. If I Apologized is just perfect. But anyway, to wrap up, I saw this film. I caught the trailer for this film on another movie that I love, Ultraviolet. I know it's a bit of a strange choice because of how badly reviewed that movie is, but anyway, I saw the trailer for it on the DVD, and I thought, that's a little interesting film. It looks like something I'd want to see. And I went to Borders when it was still alive. God rest their souls. I got it from there. I was like browsing the DVD section. I'm like, MirrorMask, awesome. Picked it up, bought it, watched it in December, and absolutely fell in love with it. And it was the first time that I ever felt the revelation of, oh my god, I think I just watched a film that will become one of my favorite movies of all time. And it just stuck with me forever. And that was the history of how I pretty much discovered it. And in regards, once again, to the dream quality, is that I think that this film perfectly creates this balance of creating a dream world that still has purpose and has consequence. That by doing, and the way they do it is by constantly acknowledging that she knows it's a dream, but constantly making you wonder if it is, because we see her in the real world, and then we get the idea of maybe they crossed back into each other, into reality and into the dream world. But then we see Valentine, and we see that he does acknowledge what she says, but at the same time he doesn't know what she's talking about. So it's this constant kind of, I can't remember the word of it. It plays with your assumptions. It makes you question whether or not this actually happened. And in the end, what really matters is that the film is beautiful and it's fantastic, and there's a little X at the bottom that we saw earlier in the film. And that's the ending, and it turns into water, and blah, 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 blah. And that was MirrorMask. And now the movie is over. And the commentary is still going on for some reason. But anyway, I'll finish up by saying that this movie, I think, has a perfect way of showing the balance between dream and reality, and questioning whether or not it's actually happening. Personally, I think that, yeah, it did actually happen. I don't think that this was all a dream, otherwise it wouldn't really have any consequence. Even if it was all a dream, I think it would still have consequence, because it taught Helena a lesson, and it has more of a meaning for it to actually happen, because now two people kind of learned a lesson, whether it be Helena and her dark side, or even Valentine. Even though I said that the Dark Princess probably isn't happy, even though it shows her being happy. But anyway, I'm just rambling on right now. Thank you for listening to the MirrorMask Commentary. This has been Cruz Moore of JamCamProductions.com, and hopefully I'll be able to continue with these commentaries and hopefully provide meaningful or interesting insight into a variety of films. Anyway, thank you for listening to the MirrorMask Commentary, and I will see you next time.